All right, come here, lay down.
There we go. There we go. All right, ready?
Yeah.
Hank Green,
Yeah.
author of
Hey.
an absolutely remarkable thing. So I'm going to go ahead and like deep dive into this book. So I'm going to say this is a video that is full of spoilers.
Okay.
I devoured this book, and I'm not much of a reader. Especially with fiction, I start a lot of books that I never finish. I read this whole book in 2 days. I went in completely blind. I didn't even read the back.
That was good. Good call.
Why?
I don't know, like I feel like there's those good moments, even early in the book, where you're not sure what's going to happen. Mysteries get solved throughout the whole book, so.
Yeah, I completely agree. So it's almost like I don't even want to tell you anything about it. Pause this video,
go
read the
get
book,
it.
and then come back and we're going to talk about it in depth.
Yeah, well, I also have a hard time reading. I love books and I love reading fiction. Oftentimes, a lot of exposition really turns me off, and so I feel like I was able to write a book, and I had this sort of moment where I was like, can I do this? Am I allowed to write a book the way I would want a book to be written?
Yeah.
But of course you are allowed. That's kind of the point. And there's not a great deal of exposition in this book. There's not a lot of here's what the room looked like, and here's all of the setting and stuff.
It's perfect. Without getting too deep, I love the fact that her name is April May and you never reference that. It's such a storybook name, and it's a bit of a trope for a character to discuss it. So
I've gotten negative feedback on it too.
Disagree. I think it's great.
There are definitely some people who are schlocky, shticky, and I'm like, whatever, man.
No, I just feel like that's what her name is. Yeah, my version of this book is just dog-eared and underlined. I don't even know where to begin.
Look at you. Oh my God. That's so
Sorry, I hope
amazing.
that's okay.
No, it's a huge compliment.
Right before chapter 12, I wrote, this whole book feels like an examination of fame or power and what that does to a psyche through the lens of an extraterrestrial mystery. So this book has everything I love automatically. Spooky things.
Yeah,
a
spooky
mystery.
at places. Was it ever creepy?
Yes. In that first chapter where she encounters Carl and goes back and forth on whether or not she wants to be in the video, she says that she doesn't and has never wanted to be famous. And for a second in that, I thought, I'm so disinterested in the story of someone who accidentally becomes famous, because my experience with people who are famous is that it is very sought, chased, and constructed.
It's never accidental. Fred Seibert from Frederator Studios, I once was talking to him and I said, I don't know what happened, man. And he's like, it's bullshit, and I know it's bullshit. But the first time I met him, he called me out on the fact that, of course it's work. Of course you want it. Of course you're going after it. Also, April. It's not like it happens on accident to April.
Yeah. So I very quickly was endeared to you as a writer and to her as a character, where she says, I never wanted to be famous, and her friend Andy sort of calls her out on that. I'm paraphrasing here. And she confronts that, and she's like, okay, no, you're right. I have thought about what I'd say in an interview, and don't I want to talk about art? And April is such a wonderful character because she is so aware in retrospect of her motivations. And I do feel extremely personally attacked for most of this book. I mean, it feels very personal to my story. I watch April wrestling with, on 2 pages later, Putnam says to April, hey, I know that you're bi, I don't have a problem with that, but your narrative's going to be easier to understand if we just say you're gay. I mean, it's not like I'm currently thinking of hooking up with any dudes, I said, sort of lying, since I've just been thinking about hooking up with Robin. But Mr. Scamp's silence sounded like agreement to me, so I caved. Sure, yeah, I can just be gay. I don't have any personal experience with that back and forth on sexuality, but I feel her devastation of compromising who she is to be more digestible. And it's like I'm listening to her convince herself that this is what she does want.
I was a little worried about this because it's 2018, and I was basically like, is that really a thing? Would an agent care at all? The feedback I got from some of my bisexual sensitivity readers was maybe not if you're trying to be a big deal in LA, but if you're trying to be a big deal in Middle America, it does matter. If you're trying to be a big deal globally, it does matter. In April's, she's in a situation where it's not going to be she's trying to win over progressive America. She's trying to win over the whole world. And so it does matter. And to me, that is a hard moment, because April says several times in the book that part of what she wants to do is to use her power to do good things. But you have these moments where it's like, well, am I going to do a bad thing to get more power so I can do a good thing later?
Yes.
Or or is this the moment where I start to do good things? And that's a moment where she's like, well, I'll do good things later.
Yeah.
And that is it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And everybody I know, like, it's very rare to like, once you start getting power, to be like, okay, well, this is the moment where I'm going to start using it for good.
Yeah. When did the idea for this book come to you? And what did it start out being like, it's for sure an examination of fame through an alien mystery, or what was it?
The idea for a book doesn't come all at once. And kind of what I realized is, like, I had several ideas for several different books, and I was like, I could make these all the same book. And that would be a much more interesting book. So first I was like, alien mystery. Like, I want to write an alien mystery. And I had this weird dream about somebody attacking a giant robot alien, and instead of getting attacked back, he turned into grape jelly. I started writing that as like a graphic novel. It was like 2 years later before I was like, this other thing that I've been thinking about, could you write a story that gives actual insight into the good parts and bad parts of being a YouTuber and experiencing celebrity in the 2018 way, and then realizing that those could kind of be the same thing, and that both of those stories would be better because of that. But literally came to me in a dream.
Yeah.
Which is not, like, people are like, you can't say that. That's not a good...
That's funny, because the next question I was going to ask is the idea of the dream, is that like a dream experience you had?
No.
I love the dream. That's my favorite part. Excuse me. That's my favorite part of this. And even though it's always described as not feeling creepy, there is something a little bit chilling about this space that is entirely yours and completely inexplainable. Right. It felt like something I wanted to get lost in, and I was a little bit sad that it wasn't real and something I could explore, because it just feels like such an adventure.
Right, and like when it ends, like, for like ultra spoilers here, you know, one of the things that doesn't get explored a ton in this book, but is a thing in the universe, is like people's withdrawal from it is significant, and like not having access to it anymore. It was very, very inspired by other books that have had similar things. I think particularly Ready Player One, which is a very similar mechanic. People will think, this seems like Ready Player One to me. You're right.
So there's this line after they figure out, the defenders have figured out the puzzle, and then they figure it out, and it says, only April, no one else. April's reckoning with herself that she is not going to go tell the president, she's going to go straight to the place. And she gets this text from Maya. You're so caught up in this, you have no idea. To Miranda and Robin, you're so much more than a person. They've never known an April May that wasn't famous. Have either of them ever said no to anything you've ever told them to do? Listen to me, April. In those relationships, you have all the power. Too much power. I've watched you with them. They idolize you. That's how fame works. It sucks. No one you meet from now on is ever again going to feel normal around you. This is just something that happens, not something that you did on purpose. But when they let you do these things, frankly, dangerous things, that doesn't mean that they're agreeing it's a good idea. They just can't say no to you. April, I hear you, but please trust me. Do not do this. I'm telling you not to do this because I love you. It is sad. Have you had someone say something like that to you?
I don't know that I've had to, because I was isolated from a lot of the pressure by being in Montana, and also by being a little bit older. I've definitely had to say it to other people, though. It's not something that's immediately obvious. You know, like, I think that especially when you're young, it's unclear when you have that level of power. So
in case anyone has watched 30 minutes of this without knowing who we are, Creed is also a vlogger and has been vlogging for like 12 years. When you started, did you try to convince yourself that you weren't interested in notoriety?
Yeah. There's this psychological concept called self-sabotage, where you don't, like, if you want something, you want to put a little spin on it so that if you fail, then you can blame that thing. One technique of self-sabotage is to say, I don't really want it. And so it's like, oh, when it happens, like, that was just a happy accident. And when it doesn't happen, you're like, well, I didn't actually want it. So yeah, I think that is a thing that I probably told myself in various ways, and continue to tell myself in some ways. Not that, like, I don't want to be in the public eye at all, I don't want notoriety, but like, I don't want certain kinds of notoriety. And maybe like now, 12 years in, that's true. I don't want those things. Like there's definitely certain kinds of fame that I don't want, and I've seen them close enough up to know how much they suck. It's out now.
It's out now. Great work. Great book.
Thanks.
High five. I assume everyone who's watching this has read it, so
Yeah.
give it a good review on Amazon. Where do they find you? At Hank Green?
I'm at Hank Green on Twitter and Instagram, and Hank's channel, and Vlogbrothers, and SciShow, and Crash Course.
Cool. I'm at Tessa Violet. I'm sure you already know that. Go check out Fresh on Spotify now. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching. This episode of Pillow Talk is brought to you by Squarespace. Look, if you listen to podcasts or you watch other online creators like myself, you already know what Squarespace is. It's an all-in-one platform to build your perfect website. I use Squarespace for my own website, and I know nothing about coding. Squarespace makes it simple for people like myself who have no background in design or coding to make beautiful, sleek websites. Maybe you already have a domain name, but you're unhappy or overwhelmed with how to set up your site. Well, Squarespace makes it easy to transfer over your domain name. Plus, you can do online stores. And lastly, outside of the amazing product, I'm a fan of Squarespace because they sponsor so much of my favorite content, so I feel really cool to get to be working with Squarespace now. So yeah, head over to squarespace.com for your free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/TessaViolet for 10% off your website or domain name. I'll be on tour November 1st through 16th with Walk Off the Earth for all these cities, and I have my first 2 ever headline shows in LA and New York in December. Also, please read Hank Green's book. It is so good, and if you've read it, tell me what you think in the comment section of this video. I want to gush about this so bad. Links for all of these things will be in the description of this video. Thank you so much, Squarespace, and have a great day. Bye.